Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Akif Razak for Face the Truth here from northern Syria. And today we are going to be discussing recent events that have been going on in Egypt in regards to the East Turkestanis. We have our guest today who is Rukiye Turdush, who is an independent human rights activist, and she is speaking to us from Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Rukiye.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'll just go straight into it. For our viewers that don't know where East Turkestan is, could you just give us a brief description of where East Turkestan is?
Thank you very much for having me today. East Turkestan is located northwest China currently, and it was independent country before it was invaded by Chinese Communist government in 1949. It was bordered with Tibet, India, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Russia, and Mongolia, 9 countries actually. So
right.
That's the location.
So if people are looking on the map, it's on the northwest of China, is that correct?
Yes, yes. China called this Xinjiang province.
Xinjiang province, okay. Okay, so today we're talking about what's been going on in Egypt. There's been a crackdown on the East Turkestani students over there. A lot of them have been attending Azhar University in Egypt. And the next question I want to ask you is, why did these students go to Egypt? Why did these students go to Egypt in the first place?
Can you repeat your question? Why did students in Egypt?
Why did these students, these Turkestani students, why did they go to Egypt in the first place?
Okay, so the East Turkestan Chinese government would like to assimilate Uyghurs and doing ethnocide policy right now, and youths are under threat of Chinese government state terror. So parents would like to, all of the Uyghur parents, if you ask, they would like to send their children to overseas for their security and safety. These kids have to go to Chinese school, and it has to be assimilated in Chinese school, or if they cannot enter Chinese university, they have to go to inland China for forced labor, and they were not allowed to return to East Turkestan, and they're going to be assimilated over there. And most importantly, parents have no rights to teach children religion according to China's new legislation in East Turkestan. So children start to lose their Islamic identity. Parents would like to keep the children's Islamic identity, so they're eager to send their children to study religion in somewhere safe. That's why most of the parents send their children to Egypt, Al-Azhar University, because Al-Azhar University is very prestigious university for Uyghurs. And they also, I think tuition fee is free too. It's affordable to Uyghurs, that since Uyghur people were segregated by China's economic development and the huge Han Chinese migration in East Turkestan, so it's affordable too. That's the reason they send so many kids to Al-Azhar University to study religion.
Okay, we are live from northern Syria, so to the people who are watching at home, please send in your questions. If you have any questions for myself or for Rukiye Turdush on the topic that we are on today, which is about East Turkestan, please send in your questions and we will, inshallah, read them out and get the answers for you. For my next question, why did the Egyptian police detain the East Turkestani students?
Because it's obvious that Egyptian government wanted money and the Chinese investment. As you know, just the 2017 May, Egyptian Economic Development Project had a meeting with Chinese Silk Road Fund in Beijing. That was just the exact time that Chinese government demanding all of the Uyghur students in abroad return to China. Otherwise, their parents going to be arrested and end up in jail. That's the exact same time. And Egyptian government has a long historical good relationship with China as well, because the Egyptian government is first Arab and African country that recognized China in 1956. And since then, they steadily, strongly support China's one China policy that China always uses to bring it to the table when they have a bilateral relationship with other countries to undermine Taiwanese, Tibetans, and East Turkestan Uyghurs' independence issues. So the Egyptian government strongly supporting China. And especially recently, Egyptian government, the Sisi government, has not good relationship with the U.S. because U.S. criticized the Egyptian government's crackdown, peaceful demonstration of brotherhood. So they don't have very good relationship. Then Egyptians jump to the China and they become really, really good relationship right now. So they want money, they put the money over faith. So that's why they would like to sell the Uyghurs to China, and the China would like to all of the Uyghur students in abroad return to China and ask the Egyptian government to force them to return. That's why they're arresting, because they follow in Chinese order.
Okay, you mentioned the meeting between the Chinese and Egyptian president a couple of months ago. What was the nature of the meeting that took place between the two presidents?
Couple of months ago, I don't remember. They always have a meeting many times, and they meet at the G summit as well. So yeah, they like to, because China think Egyptian government has a very good strategic importance for their OBOR project, One Belt One Road project. Because of the Suez Canal, they would like to use that. That's why they investing in Egyptian economic development a lot, and they would like to have a lot of good close economic relationship with Egypt. For that, China would like to other countries support the crackdown Uyghurs. So they just politically, they just bring it to the table. Okay, so we're going to invest this much, and you're going to do whatever we want you to do. That's why I think it's not what is the nature of meeting. Of course, they talk about economic and the money and the investment, but behind that, China is not going to invest free. But Egyptian government should not sell their Muslim brothers and sisters for money, because China need them too. Okay, not only Egyptian government need their money and investment, but Chinese government need them too for their OBOR project, because Egypt has a very good location, strategic significance for China's importance. Actually, Egypt should use this, not selling their Muslim brothers and sisters.
Yes, just to go back to the situation of the detainees, what is their current situation?
Right now, close to 200 students who are arrested in Hurghada and Cairo police stations, police sections. I think it's more than 120, close to 200, some people say. They still detain it, and the Egyptian government already deported 12 of them to China, and the rest of those students are facing deportation as well, where they can be tortured and possibly killed in Chinese re-education camp. We call this re-education camp death camp, because whenever most of those students, when the Chinese put pressure before, put their parents in jail, so they voluntarily return it, they arrested upon their arrival at the airport, and they never come back. We heard that 2-3 weeks ago, 4 students' dead body was returned to the families from re-education camp. So it's a very dangerous to deport these students to China, because China put them right away in re-education camp and try to assimilate them, try to change them to make it atheists. If they can't do it, they might gonna kill them, and they torture them over there. So it's a very dangerous situation, and the Egyptian government holding these students are innocent. They didn't have any crime in Egypt. They have valid visa, valid passport, and many of them are the legal students of Al-Azhar University.
What is these re-education camps? This is obviously in China. You're saying when the students come back, they arrest them straight away from the airport and take them to these re-education camps. Can you give a brief description on what these re-education camps are about?
Right now, China doing like that campaign to totally assimilate Uyghurs. That's a kind of ethnocide, because to assimilate Uyghurs, they have to attack their religion, Islamic identity, and their language. For that, so they ban all Uyghur schools, and they not allow the Uyghur language schools, and they teaching only in Chinese. Uyghurs have to go only Chinese schools, and they should not learn any religion, and they put so many restrictions on Islam in East Turkestan. So they don't want people have Islamic identity or keep any ethnic identity, the Uyghurs. That's why they open re-education camp. They're afraid of educated students in abroad, because if they don't put them in re-education camp, those students China saying Chinese consider those students that they might be a threat for the China's assimilation policy, because those students gonna learn religion and they will keep their Islamic identity when they come back, and it's not good for China's assimilation policy and destroying the Islamic identity of Uyghurs over there. So it's hard for them to assimilate those students. The another reason is those students in abroad is unlike Chinese students in abroad, not loyal to Chinese Communist Party. And also they will access free information, and when they go back, it's very hard for China's brainwash policy too, because they learn so many information and they're not going to just follow the Chinese communist ideology. That's why they open the re-education camp. They not only put the students or the businessmen or any visitors who visit the overseas, all of them Uyghurs, they put them in this re-education camp. They train them over there. They're using many kind of brainwashing tactics over there. They just, I heard that they teaching them Chinese communist ideology, atheist ideology to eliminate their Islamic identity and ethnic identity. That's we call re-education camp. And I heard one guy that the last time in re-education camp that was existent many years, and 2 years ago, the one guy said, they always make us to remember, to memorize a lot of like Chinese Communist Party's atheist propaganda and those kinds of things. When one guy could not memorize, could not sing the song, they beat him at the sin and they killed him. So it's re-education camp. That's actually like a horrible, like George Orwell's 1984. You know, they would like the brainwash in that camp.
We have a picture from East Turkestan. If I just ask our technical team to put the picture on screen, and if you're looking at it, it says on there, it's obviously written in the Chinese language. Even though you pray 5 times a day, God is not going to give you bread. So these are the types of slogans that are being everywhere in East Turkestan. They put those kind of slogans, and they said you should not pray. That means you should not pray. Even you pray, God doesn't give you bread, and Chinese Communist Party give you bread. Yeah, they do that, and they push imams to go to the street, dancing for the Little Apple music. It's those kind of things. This campaign is everywhere. Those kind of communist propaganda is everywhere in East Turkestan right now. Okay, we have a question sent in from Gregory Collingwood. What is the population of the Turkestanis, he's asking? In East
20 million.
20 million?
Yeah, 20. We say it's be more than 20 million, but Chinese statistics say that it's 10 million Uyghurs. But we don't believe that. Then look at the 1949. Look at 1949. Right now, Chinese population become 1 billion, right? Even they have one child policy. In 1949, they didn't have this much population. It's become twice right now. It's grown twice. But if Uyghurs population was at that time was not at that 1958 was 10 million. Still right now is 10 million Chinese say. That's mean if they didn't grow, that the Uyghur population didn't increase, where is the another 20 million? The Chinese government killed all of them, or the Uyghur population is growth, it become 20 million. So it's obvious that what Chinese statistics say is lying. They say 10 million, 1958 is still 10 million, or either they are killed, 20 million people that's supposed to be increased, or we don't have a 10 million population right now. I believe that we have more than 20 million.
Yeah, just to remind everybody that we are live in northern Syria. We have Rukiye Turdush with us, who is speaking to us from Canada. Please send in your questions, anything that you might want to ask regarding the situation in East Turkestan. If you want to ask us something here at OGN, please send in your questions. The next question for you, Rukiye, is why does China want these students to return?
As I said, it's very difficult to assimilate educated people. The Chinese government would like to totally control East Turkestan and completely assimilate Uyghurs, because China know that this country is not belongs to them, and they invaded this country, and China think if I don't assimilate these people, one day they might want to get back their country. Another reason is right now China has One Belt, One Road over project right now, and East Turkestan has strategic and geopolitical significance for China's over project. That's why China think I have to kill all of these people, I have to do ethnocide and eliminate these people from there. That's the China's policy, and that's what China doing for the Uyghurs right now. If the Uyghurs educated in overseas and come back, that's gonna be threat for China's assimilation and ethnocide policy in East Turkestan, because it's not easy to assimilate educated people, and China attacking Uyghur Islamic identity, and a lot of kids in Egypt study Islam, and when they come back, so their policies not work again. That's why they don't want the Uyghurs studying abroad, and they don't want the Uyghurs studying religion. That's why China want them, all of them, to return. Otherwise, they said your parents going to be in jail. So
would it be easier for them just to be like, okay, you're out of our country, you're out of our here now, just leave you there instead of calling them back?
Excuse me, can you repeat your question? I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying, would it be easier for the Chinese government to say, okay, you've left our country now, you have gone to Egypt, you are not our problem anymore?
You are left the country? You are not the problem anymore?
I'm saying if the East Turkestanis, if they've already gone to Egypt, would it not be easier for the Chinese government to say that you are not our problem anymore, and why would they want to call them back?
Oh, they're going to be a problem, because if they're going to Egypt and they study in Islam, and they're going to do campaign against the China's oppression in East Turkestan, or many of them going to go back. Actually, many of them in Egypt, those students at Al-Azhar University, they would like to go back to China, because that's our country. We were created over there by God, and that country belongs to us. We don't want to live in overseas. We don't have choice. And these students, all of them want to go back. That's why China know that after they studied, they finished the studying, they're going to come back. So before they studied Islam and they come back slowly, or they do preach in overseas and for Uyghur diaspora, I have to kill them. So that's why they want all of them to go back to China.
Okay, you say the East Turkestani, some of them would want to go back to their country, but obviously these ones who are being forced to go back to, or forced to be going to China, they don't want to go back, is that correct?
They forced them to go back at first. They said, because they were studying, they want to finish their study. That's why they didn't want to go back. And but some students will go back because the China at first put pressure on their parents. The armed forces burst into their families and force their parents to call their children to come back. Otherwise, you're going to be in jail. So you're going to be arrested. The students do not want to put their parents at risk. They voluntarily returned to China, but they were arrested upon their arrival at the airport and put in a re-education camp. I told you that. Yes. So that's why then they never come back from re-education camp. It was, some of them were killed in the camp. So then students scared that they didn't want to go back. And some of them, they just want to finish their study. They would like to get their diploma. That's why they didn't want to go back.
Right. What does Egypt gain by sending these students back?
Egyptian government can gain money and the Chinese investment, but I think doing this, Egyptian government is sharing China's crime against the Uyghurs.
Right.
And at the same time, they are harming Islam, not allowing Uyghur students study at Al-Azhar University. That's what they are gaining right now.
Okay, a question from Omar Mateo Chow, who says, religiously speaking, how are Uyghur Muslims treated? How are they treated by the government? The Hui are another historically Muslim ethnic group.
Yeah, that's the China playing double standard policy, and they treat it fairly. They give more freedom to Hui Muslims, not too much, but they give freedom to Hui Muslims, but not the Uyghurs. And then because they don't want to insult their Muslim allies. For example, Saudi, Egyptian, all of Muslim countries, Turkey, and said, look, I am treating really well. I am respecting Islam. Look at this Hui Muslims. They are doing well. But they're not treating fairly to Uyghurs. They said, oh, their problem is not religious problem. I'm not attacking their religion. They are separatists. They want to be independent. This is a political problem. That's a different issue. Okay. we have a huge difference with the Hui Muslims, because Hui Muslims forefathers, and there's a legend that their forefathers were the Middle East missionaries, but they were converted Muslims. Han Chinese, they were ethnicity or Han Chinese, and they were converted to be Muslim before. So they don't look like, they look like Chinese, and they speak Chinese. Their all culture is similar to Chinese. They don't have any distinct identity different than Han Chinese, except Islam. And they were not nation state before. They just the minority in China. But we are not. We were nation state before. We were invaded by China. Of course, we have a political problem with China, but this is true. But it is true that China attacking Islam too. It's not something that they didn't care about our Islamic identity, just having a political problem, who wants to be political and wants to be independent, they are arresting. Not like that. Actually, they are attacking our Islamic identity. This is the existing issue too. This is something China cannot hide, because there is a legislation, I told you before, that parents cannot teach children any religion, and the Uyghurs' Muslim name forced to be changed under 16 years old. For example, if anybody has a name Medina or Mecca or those kinds of names, they force them to change their name. And there's in Ramadan time, there's a lot of restriction too. This is attacking religion, Islamic identity. It has nothing to do with the politics too, but China playing really well, and that's showing that.
Could you just briefly explain to us what's the difference between a Uyghur Muslim and a Hui Muslim?
Difference between Hui Muslim and Uyghur Muslims, you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I just already explained it, I think. The Hui Muslim has only Islamic, they don't have a distinct ethnic difference than Han Chinese.
Right.
Only Islamic, they have only identity, that's the Islamic identity. They look like Han Chinese, they speak Chinese, their culture is like similar to Chinese. But the Uyghurs, we have a distinct culture, distinct language, and we don't look like Chinese. We belong to Turkish Turkic group people. And we had a nation state before, and East Turkestan belongs to Uyghurs, and it's around 4,000 years. We had the empire, we had the nation states before, so we had the kingdoms. So that place is China invaded, and that's our difference between Huis and Hui Muslims, because Hui Muslims is just a minority in China. They never had independent states. They were converted they were Chinese before, and they converted to Islam.
Okay, we have another question in from Uyghur Ferdawis. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Can you tell us how difficult it is for journalists to go to East Turkestan for reports?
It is very difficult. Chinese government do not allow them to communicate with Uyghur population at the street. They destroy their cameras. They don't let them to speak with anybody. Uyghurs were very scared too. If anybody speak to the overseas journals, they're going to end up in jail after journals left. So it's huge difficulty. Actually, it's not a difficulty. It's just a forbidden. And because China hiding its oppression, that's why.
Okay, so has there been any cases of journalists being prosecuted in East Turkestan?
Excuse me?
I said, has there been any cases of journalists being prosecuted in East Turkestan? Is there any known incident that you know of?
Yeah, I remember that. I think that everyone knows that Miss Ursula, French journalist, were kicked out by China just because she would like to cover a story in East Turkestan.
Right.
And many other journals were, I don't remember the names, but there is so many cases. They were always kicked out from East Turkestan. And some Japanese journalists, the journals from Hong Kong, they kicked out. And they were beaten over there, they smashed their cameras. Those kinds of issues always happen.
Okay, Rukiye, for my next question, I would like to ask, what can people from around the world do to help and improve the situation?
I would like to ask the Muslim government, especially, I think it's the Western governments, I don't expect very much right now, but the human rights organizations in the West know very well Uyghur issues, and they're not in silence at least. But Muslim governments, that we are expecting more, we want them to put pressure on China using their bilateral economic relationship, because you don't need to sell your Muslim brothers and sisters for money. If China needs, if you need money, China needs you too. They need your oil, they need your strategic location for their over project, they need your cooperation, they need your alliance as well. So it's, you don't need to be puppet state of China. I'm expecting those governments use bilateral relationship, put pressure on China, stop oppressing Uyghurs. And also, I would like the Egyptian government to release those students immediately and not deport them to China. All of the world community and the states and the world should put pressure on Egypt to release the students, because those students are innocent. They had valid passport, valid visa, and they didn't commit any crime. So the world governments should put pressure, the states put pressure on Egypt, do not deport those students, and ask Egypt government to those students see the lawyer. Let those students see the lawyer. And I would like to also ask the world community, Muslim scholars and Islamic preachers to talk about the more Uyghurs, research and learn about Uyghur Muslims and the East Turkestan issues, and demand China, put pressure on China, stop oppression against the Uyghurs, demand Egyptian government, do not deport these students, and allow those students to learn at Al-Azhar University. Okay, if they don't want them to learn study at Al-Azhar University, at least do not deport them. Just release them and let them go wherever they want. Just we demand that. I would like to ask the world community this, because by doing this, you are not protecting only 20 million Muslim brothers and sisters in East Turkestan. You are protecting your own Islamic value of justice. So it's very important.
Okay, and we have another question in from Abu Qasim. He says, I have heard that some Uyghurs are put in prison for learning Arabic or for growing beards or wearing Muslim clothing. Is all this true?
It is true that that law started in 2007. I think the Chinese government put people who has a beard. You cannot see anybody who has a beard in East Turkestan right now. It's not allowed. And the women who wear headscarves, they have to put in jail. They have to put the headscarves in back of the hat. They have to show their hair. Even now, that one is not allowed to right now. If women cover their hairs, they have to stay in the jail 2 years. And when man who has a beard has to stay in the jail 2 years.
Okay, yeah, I think this is new information to a lot of us. It's like you said about the more about the world leaders and people making it more aware of what's going on. Even for the journalists, I think it's a thing of maybe reporting more of what's going on in East Turkestan, even if they can't go there, maybe reporting it from their own countries. And what about the normal layman, the normal civilian? What would he be able to do to help the situation, in your opinion, Rukiye?
I can't hear you. What about the what? The rest of the words I couldn't hear. Sorry.
I was saying, what about the normal civilian, the layman? How could you've already said that you want the Muslim leaders, the preachers, the scholars to help and to speak about the situation. What about the normal person, the layman? Well, what can he do or she do to help?
In normal people, normal civilians should believe that people is power. People's power is important. We should not let always the evil governments and injustices rule this world, because this world should belong to the people, not those rulers. That's why we should not give up, because the justice and Allah is in our side. That's why we have to push our governments, and at least we're going to do peacefully. We can send a letter to the governments, and the normal people, they can do protests. They support Uyghur people's cause, and they raise the awareness to protect this 20 million people, not only protecting 20 million people, to protect our Islamic value and the justice.
One person asked, what about the UN? I think what it means by that is, has the UN done anything to help? Are they talking about helping? Have they played any part in what's been going on in East Turkestan?
the United Nations is aware of what's going on in East Turkestan, but you know that they don't have power. So, like, you know, the UN is run by which 5 countries, including China too. So they don't have much power. They don't have forces. They can't do anything. They accept refugees, but they more focus on Syrian crisis because there's a war zone over there. So they accept. They have so many refugees, and they don't have enough funding too. So they have a huge difficulty too. The UN could not help much to the Uyghur case, and we have so many refugees. For example, we have refugees in Thailand prison right now. Thailand already deported more than 100 Uyghurs that fabricated the story that they were the terrorists, and all of them were disappeared in China. They might be killed, forcibly disappeared after they were returned. And you might know this news. And right now, more than 70 people in Thailand prison, and they're facing deportation. And the UN could not do anything for them too, because those people know that those Uyghurs in Thai prison cannot trust UN too, because they were thinking they can't protect them. So because Thailand has a really good relationship with China right now too, but they are in dangerous situation. No one could help right now for these people.
How is the refugee situation? Is it like here in Syria? We know it's a tough situation. There's a lot of like you said, there's a lot of focus on it. In regards to the East Turkestanis, is it similar to what's going on in here in Syria with the lack of food and living in tents? Is it like that?
It's in Syria. That's a war zone. There is a war, and the news, we can see it. We can see the videos, what's going on. People know there. There is a raise of awareness because people know, governments know, and the media know about what's going on in Syria.
Yeah.
But China, it's like it's like a prison, the East Turkestan. China put these people, they cut all connection with the outside of the world. They're not allowed the people to talk, and the people in overseas, any kind of sensitive subjects. They're not allowed to talk anything except, for example, students here in Canada, they couldn't talk with their parents because they were forced to return too, but they didn't return, okay? So they're not going to access any information. To do the brainwash, China block all of the information from outside, and what's going on inside we don't know. And China strictly controlling the information flow, so we don't know. They ban journalists to go there. They don't let journalists get information, so we don't know what's going on there. I believe that there's a hidden genocide exists, but we don't know because sometimes they kill whole village. Sometimes last year, 2-3 years ago, the Chinese government they completely attacked the one village with the armed forces. They always arrest people. There is a state terror exists. But we heard a little bit news, but we cannot take a picture. We cannot get the evidence because China strictly control the information. That's why it's a very difficult. So the situation is that place, Syria, we know the things, so we can take action. But in East Turkestan, we cannot know. People doesn't know what's going on over there. So many people were killed. How many people were killed, we don't know. So it's not easy to raise awareness because we cannot get the evidence.
We have a comment from Watan Soygusi. I hope I pronounced that right. He says, many countries are now in the interest of money and only money. Oppress the world's most oppressed Uyghurs by the Chinese government. Many of these countries were also occupied by the Han Chinese. A question in from Ramzi Rosis, who says, has the Muslim World League taken any action about East Turkestan situation?
Didn't take any action. Right now, all Muslim states are allies of China. So yeah. They don't want to talk about anything Uyghur issues because they put the money over faith.
Yes,
they didn't care about their Islamic value right now. They're not caring about the Islamic value of justice. That's why. Yeah,
it's like you mentioned before about the Muslim countries, and some people say Egypt's a Muslim country too, and they're the ones who are deporting these people. Finally, Rukiye, do you have any message? You've already said quite a bit to the world and the Muslim world. Do you have any final message for the world?
I would like to tell the world, states and organizations such as Islamic Cooperation and Islamic preachers and Muslim scholars, please raise the awareness. put pressure on China, demand China stop oppression, and demand Egypt release those students. I repeat again, and do not deport them to China, because by doing this, you're not only protecting 20 million Uyghurs, you are protecting Islam. You are protecting your own Islamic value of justice. So please do not ignore.
Okay, Rukiye, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to all the viewers for joining us. My name is Akif Razak for Face the Truth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much. You too.